Alright, so today I will be discussing the all-new redesigned 2025 Infiniti QX80 to see whether this car is worth it or not. Now for this week, I decided I would do a video on a gas-powered car, as my last couple of videos have been on electric cars. And another change is, the last couple of weeks I've been filming the videos and uploading them pretty early in the week. This week, for whatever reason, I waited towards the end of this week. But anyways, about the QX80, it's a full-size luxury SUV, which seats either 7 or 8, depending on how you spec it. And it starts at $82,450. And as this video goes on, I will be digging into whether this car is actually worth that or not. So here's a view of the QX80. So we will go check out the features now. So, well, you can see that it's a very nice interior. This one is the top trim autograph, so it's actually the nicest of the bunch. And then you see these questions about what the QX80 is about and some of the features it has. So you could build your QX80 here. You could shop for 2024 QX80s, which I imagine right now the deals are really good on those, as most people buying a QX80 probably want the redesigned 2025 one. So yeah, let's check this car out. So here's another view of the QX80. This one's a pre-production version. And yeah, specs and trims. So there are 4 trim levels to this, and the QX80 comes in either all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive. If I was to get this car, I would 1000% get it with all-wheel drive, as the rear-wheel drive one is kind of useless in bad weather, and that's not good for a large SUV, especially an expensive one. So I would definitely get the all-wheel drive if I was to get a QX80. Now, the 4 trim levels are the Pure, the Luxe, the Sensory, and the Autograph. So, if I was to get this car personally, I would get the Sensory, as you get most of the luxury of the Autograph, but it's not as pricey as the Autograph. And the thing about the Autograph is it's the only trim that you can only get with 7 seats. The other trims you could get with 7 or 8 seats. So, and I like the 8-seat one personally, so I would get the Sensory for that reason, if nothing else. Now, the best value in the lineup is probably going to be the Luxe, as it's not as expensive relative to other trims, and you get most of the luxury and most of the features of the higher trims. Although, for people like me who prefer loaded vehicles, I think the Sensory is the better choice, or even the Autograph if you don't care so much about the price difference and you're okay with the captain's chairs instead of the bench seat in the second row. Now, the Pure, I don't really recommend. It doesn't have a lot of features relative to the other trims. It's still pretty expensive, so I wouldn't recommend the Pure. I would personally recommend either the Luxe or the Sensory. So some of the features that these trims have, actually I'll start with the Pure and then move up. So all QX80s have the 3.5 liter V6 twin turbo engine, producing 450 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque, which is a pretty big upgrade from the 2024 QX80, which has a no turbo V8, which V8 sounds cool and all, but it's still down on power and torque compared to the 2025 QX80. Like, I believe the older QX80s made 400 horsepower, and I don't exactly remember how much torque they made, but it was definitely a good amount, less than 516. So, as you can see, the Pure and Luxe both have 14 speaker audio systems, and Well, for the Pure, you have heated seats in the front 2 rows. With the Luxe, you have heated and cooled seats in the first 2 rows. And I believe the Pure is the only trim with vinyl seating, synthetic leather. The other trims use genuine leather, and the Sensory and Autograph actually use a more premium semi-aniline leather. And all of them have 3-zone climate control, 2 zones in the front, 1 zone in the back. Although the Sensory and Autograph have this thing called biometric cooling, which I've heard a few things about it, don't really know that much about it. I personally don't think it's necessary, but it's just cool to have. So that's the key features with some of these. And all these QX80s are going to be getting 16 miles per gallon in the city, 19 miles per gallon on the highway, regardless of trim level. And all of them are going to need premium fuel, which is expected. So, as I said, the Pure and Luxe have 14 speaker audio systems, and I believe the Sensory and Autograph have 24 speaker audio systems, so that's the difference. And no matter which one you get, the sound system's obviously going to be very good. And all of them have the 14.3-inch digital gauge cluster, and yeah, that's about it for the QX80. It's, I think, a very great car, and I think, honestly, if I was shopping in this segment, I wanted a full-size luxury SUV for a family, I would 100% pick this 2025 Infiniti QX80. I think the new 2025 Cadillac Escalade and new 2025 Lincoln Navigator have way too much screen on the interior. And relative to the QX80, I don't know if they're worth the extra money. So yeah, all these QX80s are going to have heated steering wheels, which it's a feature I personally don't care for, but it's whatever. If you want to use it, I guess you can. And then I explained with the seating capacity, all QX80s will come standard with 7 seats, 2 in the front, 2 in the middle, 3 in the back. But in the Pure, Luxe, and Sensory, you could get the bench seat, which is 2 in the front, 3 in the middle, and 3 in the back, making 8 seats, which is what I would do personally. So yeah, that's pretty good. And I would say the amount of luxury even in the seats of the QX80 is pretty impressive because, well, obviously the third row in all these cars are going to be primitive relative to the other rows. But in the base model Pure, the cheapest version, well, that Pure one, you get heated front and second row seats as standard. In the Luxe, as I already went over, you get heated and cooled front and second row seats as standard. Then you get the Sensory, which, same thing as the Luxe, heated and cooled seats in the front 2 rows. But in the Sensory, you get massaging front seats, which, again, a feature I don't care for. I've tried it in cars before, and it doesn't really work too good. So if I was to own this car, I would not be using the massage seat feature. And then you have the Autograph, which has not only heated and cooled seats in the front 2 rows, but in the first and second row, the Autograph actually has massaging seats in both the first and second row. So that's pretty interesting. Not a lot of cars have that feature. So I will actually go into the build and price for each of these trims and see some of the packages on these QX80s. And I'll also show how I would personally spec the QX80 and which one I think is the best value. So first, we're going to start with the Pure, the cheapest one. As I mentioned, I don't really recommend this trim level. It's expensive just like all the other trim levels, but obviously you're not getting as much in the Pure. But then that's why it's the cheapest of the bunch. And I'll say if you're getting a Lux or higher, it actually comes with a high adjustable air suspension, which is something the Pure doesn't come with. I imagine even without the air suspension, the Pure still drives really well, especially because it has smaller wheels than the rest. So the Pure has 20-inch wheels, and the rest of them have 22-inch wheels. So obviously, the Pure has the thicker tire. So even with the other trims having air suspension and the Pure not having air suspension, I imagine the ride quality on all the trims will be about the same. But the benefits of the QX80s with air suspension are you still get height adjustability, which means that you could raise the car for off-road or you could lower the car to make entry and exit easier. And the QX80s with the air suspension are probably going to handle better than the ones without the air suspension. So yeah, first I'll dive into the Pure. And yeah, two options, rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. In a car like this, I personally feel all-wheel drive is a must-have. So you can drive the car safely in rain and snow and not have a problem. Whereas with rear-wheel drive, there would be issues. So all-wheel drive is definitely a must-have. With this, it adds about $3,000 to the price tag, but it's worth every penny, and that's also money you're going to get back when you sell the car for resale. So there's 4 colors on the Pure: black, gray, blue, and white. Black is the free color, and the other 3 colors cost a little bit of money. Again, when you're buying a car like this, not a big deal. And for the interior of the Pure, you could pick black interior or beige interior. Both choices are free. And wait, let me go back. But yeah, that's with those. The black and beige interior are both free. And I know I call the Pure a bit basic compared to other trims as it doesn't have as many features. But another reason why I would skip the Pure for a higher trim level is because due to the Pure having synthetic leather and the other trims having genuine leather, I know on the inside the Pure is not going to feel as premium. Although all the QX80s, one thing I like is you're getting the same technology, which is you have this upper screen, which is the large digital gauge cluster and the main infotainment system, both of which are obviously going to be very good in a car like this. And then down below the main infotainment screen, you actually have a secondary screen for climate control, which, in my opinion, this QX80 has the perfect amount of screen. Like, if you look at the 2025 Escalade and the 2025 Navigator, I think those have way too much screen for a car. But that's just my opinion. Now, for packages on the Pure, all you can really option on the Pure is whether you want captain's chairs, which is 2 seats in the middle row and a center armrest, or whether you want the bench seat package, which is 3 seats in the middle row. And obviously, when the middle seat is not in use, you can always fold out the armrest built into the middle seat, which is why if I was getting the QX80 personally, I would get the bench seat just so I could have the extra seating capacity and it's better practicality. Now, obviously, you could get accessories if you want. I'm not going to go through those. But, yeah, and then you have your service plans for the QX80. Again, not something I'm going to go through in this video, but if you want, you can go through all that. So that's the QX80 Pure trim level. I don't recommend it, as I've said many times in this video, but if you're looking for the cheapest way to get into the new QX80 and you don't care about having a lot of features, I think for those people, which are probably not going to be a lot of people given the price of this QX80, I think the Pure can still be a great choice. Now, next we're going to move on to the Lux, which I think of all the QX80s, the Lux is the best value for dollar because you're still getting the heated and cooled seats in both rows, still getting the heated steering wheel, you're still getting great tech, you're still getting leather seats, and you're still getting a bunch of other neat features. So I'm gonna build out the Lux now. Again, rear-wheel drive, four-wheel drive. I would get four-wheel drive as I already mentioned. Now, for the Lux, there's 5 colors instead of 4. You could also get red for the Lux, but only black is going to be free, which I believe that's how it is for all the trims. We'll see once I look into the sensory and autograph, but so far seems like black's the only free color, and all the other colors they cost money. So I see you could pick between black leather and brown leather in the Lux. And then for packages, for the Lux and sensory, you could actually option Pro Pilot Assist 2.1, which I believe is a self-driving system, which, I mean, in a car like this, even though the self-driving is useless in my opinion, and I personally wouldn't trust it, I would still get it anyways just because it's a cool gimmick to have. And at least on the Lux, we'll see about the higher trims, it comes with 64 color ambient lighting, which is really cool. And I believe the only company who does this aside from Infiniti is Mercedes. So that is pretty cool to have. And yeah, that's the Lux. I feel like this is the trim most QX80 shoppers are probably going to choose just because it's the best value for dollar. But now I'll dig into the sensory, which I personally appreciate a little bit more luxury, a little bit more features. So if I was to get this car, it would be the sensory for sure. And on the sensory and autograph, they actually come standard with four-wheel drive, which, in my opinion, all the QX80s should come standard with all-wheel drive, but Infiniti decided the Pure and the Lux should have a rear-wheel drive option, whereas the sensory and autograph, all-wheel drive is standard. So, yeah, it is what it is. And on the sensory, seems like all the colors are free other than white. That's a $200 upcharge. Not that it matters when you're spending $100,000 on a car, but it's interesting to see. So yeah, if I was to get this car personally, I would probably either get mineral black or grand blue. But for now, I'll stick to mineral black. Just because the QX80 looks good in black in my opinion. And I see you have a choice between black and brown leather. I'd get black leather personally. I think it's just easier to keep clean. And one thing about this sensory and the autograph compared to the Lux is the sensory and autograph use semi-aniline leather, whereas the Lux uses regular leather. So for the people who want the most premium feeling leather available, I think they're going to appreciate the semi-aniline leather in the higher trims relative to the regular leather in the Lux. And packages, again, bench seat package, Pro Pilot Assist, which I would personally get both of those. And one difference between the Lux and the sensory is on the sensory, the 64 color ambient lighting on the interior is standard. Whereas with the Lux, you have to option the Pro Pilot Assist 2.1 package in order to get the ambient lighting. So that's the sensory. The way I would get a QX80 personally, the MSRP is $105,840, which I think it sounds like a lot of money, but even despite the price point, this car still has a lot to offer. And finally, we'll take a look at the Autograph, which is the very highest trim. And same thing as the Sensory, which is most of the colors are free, but white's $200 upcharge. Now, on the Autograph, as you can see, all the Autographs have a black roof, which personally I'm not a fan of it. I feel like that should be optional to make the roof all black, but there should also be an option that the roof doesn't have to be all black. So, in my opinion, the only color the Autograph looks natural in is the mineral black, just because I'm not a fan of the black roof with contrasted with another color. And now obviously with the semi-aniline leather here on the Autograph, it's a little bit different. You could either get a black interior or a burgundy interior, which is dark red. So if you want a red interior on a Infiniti QX80, the Autograph is the one you have to get. And then on the Autograph, everything is standard. The Pro Pilot Assist self-driving is standard. So yeah, Autograph is pretty much the one with everything. So yeah. Now one thing I am going to check before I wrap this up is which of these QX80 trims has the heads-up display. Because so far I haven't really seen anything for it. So I'm just going to check these trims real quick and see if any of these has the heads-up display. Oh, never mind. Turns out the Lux and higher have the heads-up display, which I've tried heads-up display. And honestly, I think it's pretty cool to have, but I would be fine without it. But yeah. But if you do want a heads-up display, you have to get the Lux and higher, which, speaking of that, if I was in charge personally, knowing this is a luxury product and most people probably aren't going to want the cheapest variant, I think my feedback to Infiniti would probably be that I don't see the point in there being the pure trim level. I would just make the Lux the cheapest one, and I would eliminate the option for two-wheel drive. I would just keep all the QX80s four-wheel drive, especially because with the four-wheel drive in the QX80s, you have the option to either keep the car in rear-wheel drive mode or all-wheel drive mode. So I don't really see the point of there being a two-wheel drive option to save a little bit of money, especially on a car of this price. And other than that, the only other real feedback I give to Infiniti is on the Autograph, which I'm fine with them making the black roof option exclusive to Autograph. But my other feedback would just be, instead of making all Autographs that way, they should make it optional to have a black roof or not. Like, make it a no-cost option exclusive to Autograph. I think that would just be a lot better. But overall, aside from all that, I feel the 2025 redesigned Infiniti QX80 is a fantastic full-size luxury SUV that I would highly recommend to anyone shopping in this segment. And I would definitely love to check out one of these in person. So that's going to wrap it up for this video today. We will reunite in the next video.